Welcome to Let's Talk Ball. I'm Thad Brown along with Carl Jones. Every single week, we take a look at the all-22 film from the Bills games, talk about things we liked, things we didn't, things that surprised us. And today, we're going to talk a lot about both coordinators because I think both Bobby Babich and Joe Brady had really good days against the Detroit Lions. Carl, you pick. You want to go offensive guy first or defensive guy first?
I think everybody want to talk about how the fact the Bills put up 48 points on a 12-1 ball club, so we can start there.
I like that. All right, go. Joe Brady, man. I've got 8 or 10 things to say about him. I'll let you have the floor first. What did you like most about the way Joe Brady operated in this game against the Lions?
So I'm going to take it back to my collegiate days a little bit here when we played against Lamar Jackson. When you play against a running quarterback and you play a lot of man coverage like we did one year, my second year at Syracuse, you're always going to be one player short in the quarterback run game. If you just put the line down the middle of the field, because of the fact that quarterback, because you're just going to, it's going to be uneven numbers no matter what. And because that's the way the Lions play defense, they play man on like half of their snaps. They were like, you know what? We're going to weaponize our cyborg quarterback and use him in the running game all the time, whether it was the walk-in touchdown that he had or late in the game when he started going crazy, or even the James Cook touchdown where it was a little bit of a read. When you put Josh Allen in that situation and the Lions are always going to be short no matter what until they change their coverage, that was a good nod by Joe Brady to take advantage of what the Lions are doing.
I think that the math, if I'm reading you right, tell me if I'm right about this. If you're playing single high and you're in man, well, that means you got one defender for every receiver. So let's say it's 5. Then you got one more guy who's got to play the single high safety, the center fielder, basically. So that's 6. So now you've only got 5 guys left to defend the quarterback and the 5 blockers, which means in football, if you are 5-on-5 in the run game, that is advantage offense. So you're saying the Lions pretty much sat in that all game long when they were in man-to-man coverage.
There's no chance. Like, we played against Lamar one year. We're like, all right, let's switch it up and go too high. It didn't matter because he's Lamar damn Jackson. But in theory, when you just see a guy and he's the quarterback player 15 yards off the ball, he has no chance to stop that play at 3-4 yards.
That deep safety you're talking about. The deep safety, right? Yeah. So, and that's the guy that you would need to be the extra man in the box. And yeah, that was, look, Joe Brady, I think that was a big part of it. You know, one thing I want to focus on is something that I've been railing on for weeks and weeks and weeks in this space. Adjustment in the run game, something else. Well, he had it in this game. They ran counter all day long after being a zone and duo team most of the year. They ran tackle guard counter, a little bit with the tackle leads, those dart runs that we've seen the Bills do a lot. But this was a not brand new, but certainly a much different run game philosophy, a different lean. And Joe Brady just ran that over and over and over. And the Bills were really, really good with it. And they also did a nice job, too, of running in action. And I'm pretty sure this was intentional, where most of the time when they run the tackle pull play, for example, the running back's to the right, he's going to take a handoff going across the quarterback's face and run left with the tackle on the right, pulling left and going that way. What they did in this game is they would pull, let's say the tackle was pulling left to right. They'd start with the running back to the right. He'd come to the middle to take the handoff and then go back to the right following the tackle around the outside. And what that does, it takes the linebackers and sucks them into the middle of formation. Now when that tackle gets to the edge, he's got leverage to compress that linebacker inside, and boom, you're going to the outside. So, like I said, we've been talking for weeks. Joe Brady needed to have something else in the run game. He had it, and that was a big reason why the Bills dominated in this game. And, Carl, the other thing I like, too, and, let's talk about this a little bit. In the pass game, 2 things. Number one, the 4th down play that you saw with Ty Johnson, that was a situation where he took advantage of man coverage at the line of scrimmage. I want to let you kind of set up and describe why this is such a great call and such a pain in the neck. But essentially what happened is Dawson Knox picks Ty Johnson's defender, and Johnson is gone 5 yards down the field.
Well, first off, I don't like how the Lions play that at all. If it's obvious man situation, 4th and 2, why are all 3 players on the same level? That isn't, you're asking to get picked. You're literally telling Dawson Knox, hey, first down, like just go ahead and move the sticks. But essentially, because the Lions play more man coverage more than any team in the NFL, you know what? We're just going to run a quick little rub play, especially against a backup linebacker who's not in that position. How many times has that linebacker for the Detroit Lions been in a position where he's repped that out with the probably backup nickel there? Once, twice, maybe on scout team on Saturday. So that was another example of Joe Brady picking on a Lions defense, which is so banged up. I think 21 players on that team are on injured reserve right now. He's like, you know what? Let's stay away from Brian Branch and Kirby Joseph and Carlton Davis and all these guys who are good. And let's pick on, Quan Alexander, who got here 9 days ago.
And 2 plays into the game, they're picking on Quan Alexander. That's the deep throw to Ty Johnson right off the bat on a play where Alexander, you can see him thinking. You can see the wheels turning in his head like, do I got to go with 20? Oh, it's a catch already. I'm done. That's already a first down. And to Brady's credit, they played that hit over and over and over. It had to be at least a half dozen times. Any big pass play you at home can remember seeing, there's a linebacker for the Lions 5 or 10 yards out of position. And not because they're stupid or poorly coached, although we're going to get that in a minute, but just because the Bills athletes in that spot, Ty Johnson, Ray Davis, James Cook, Dalton Kincaid, Dawson Knox, they were better. They were the better players, and the Bills had a matchup advantage and it exploited it all game long. But, Carl, on top of that, I don't know if it's poor coaching or, like you said, the fact that the Lions are playing so many backups. Look, they had 4 linebackers who were either on injury reserve or out of this game. So they're basically playing third stringers in this game. It looked that way too. I mean, the second Josh Allen rushing touchdown, the one that wasn't a sneak, 2 guys go outside to play Reggie Gilliam. I don't even know why you need 1 for him most of the time. Definitely not 2. The James Cook play is one where the defensive end crashes. He doesn't need to. That's a walk-in touchdown. The Ray Davis touchdown is one. And if anybody wants to find it at home, Dan Orlovsky did a nice breakdown of this on ESPN. 2 guys run into each other, leave Ray Davis open. Look, the Lions look like a team on defense that were playing guys they just brought in off the street. And I don't want to say it's not an excuse because the Packers, were in a game with them the week before and lost to the Lions. So it's not like everybody's putting 50 on Detroit. Buffalo just did it better.
Yeah, I do want to drive that point home because I think adding some context to the Lions situation right now on defense is important, but that doesn't excuse the fact of how they played out there. You still got to go out there and schematically take advantage of some things because sure, they play a lot of man coverage with some backup players. You can just, run certain man beaters and just do it like that. But Joe Brady went a step further and said, I'm going to dress it up one way and get to it a different way. Like, I'm not just going to run a simple rub route on mesh. I'm going to run it with my running back. How many times has a running back got a rub route? I've rarely seen that. So I think he went a step further in terms of, okay, they got backups, but let's put them in even harder situations to go out there and make a play.
And Brady, too, was doing the thing where he runs the same play over and over and makes you stop it. The long James Cook touchdown, I love this. That was the second time in a row they had run that play. The first time they run it with 3 receivers split left, and they ran it to the left into the trip side. Then on the next play, they bring Dalton Kincaid in, send him with trips to the outside. Kincaid brings the safety way to the sideline, takes him out of the run fit, and all of a sudden you've got a wide open play up the middle for a touchdown. Again, Brady just finding the weakness and exploiting it over and over and over. Let's talk about Josh Allen's day for a second. Every single week, it's a new ridiculous thing he did. In this game, though, it's similar to last week where you walked away from the game thinking, oh my goodness, it's the best thing I've ever seen. I went to the film and it didn't live up to the hype because it wasn't gonna, but there were a couple plays in this game where Josh Allen dropped back and had a play where 18, 30 quarterbacks, 25 quarterbacks in the league just drop back and rip it off the bat. It might not be spectacular. It might not be a 20-yarder, but it's there. Allen doesn't pull the trigger. And then he scrambles outside and does something utterly ridiculous for 25 yards anyway. Like, to underline this, when I go through watching the game, I'll take every play, and if I like what a guy did, I'll bold him. If I don't like what a guy did, I'll put him in red. I had 2 plays in this game, which I hardly ever do, where I put Josh Allen in red for the beginning and then bolded him for the end. It was that kind of game for the Bills star quarterback.
The James Cook amazing play early on in the game where the throw is stupid. I don't know, right on the left, throw it back across your body, right on the face mask. If once he hits his back drop, Amari Cooper's wide open. Like, the dig is there. It's just
easy.
For whatever reason, I don't know if he felt the rush, maybe didn't see. I don't know. It was there. He was like, you know what? That's boring. Let me go make something else shake. And to his credit, it worked. I think the only time where it was a legit like double negative in the grading scale was the Keon Coleman across, not the long one he actually caught, but the one that probably should have been picked off where he went across his body. There was stuff open underneath that he probably should have went there a little earlier and then was feeling himself. But you know what? That might be a little bit of a heat check. We've all been there. And I think that probably played a part towards the back half of the game. But at the beginning of the game, like James Cook play, make the throw. But I'm not 17, so hey.
That Cook throw, it was good when you saw it live. And then, I kind of had forgotten about how good it was. And I had the end zone view. So you're looking from behind Josh Allen. And he is almost at a full sprint to his left. opens the body wide and flicks it back the other way. I mean, Carl, I'm trying to do it right now for everybody who's watching. It's hurting my shoulder right now. I don't have a football with me. I'm not running. I don't have pads on. And he made that play on a 20-yard throw on a dime. But yeah,
Next Gen Stats said that was 16 miles per hour. He was running at 16 miles per hour.
And made a perfect throw. Perfect throw. Now, look, I think the bottom line is you talk about it being a heat check, right? Sometimes when you have a heat check and you start launching 30-footers and they clang off the backboard, that can hurt your team. I don't want to say what Josh Allen is doing will ever hurt the team, but there are options that are available that he's not taking. And you wonder how long this ridiculous run can last for him to where that might start becoming a small problem.
For sure. At this point, I mean, I know the people are going to say the Rams defense isn't good. The 49ers defense was banged up. Same thing with the Lions. I get that. It's important to add context. But he's playing with a swagger and confidence right now that I don't know I've seen for at least a month in a row. I've seen it in spurts, but this is a pretty long time that he's been playing with this type of bravado to him.
And it makes a difference, too. When you're playing that level, you find more ways to make big plays. And to his credit, I do think some of the time when he's passing up these throws, he's playing it ultra safe, which is fine. I understand that. You've got a great offense. Let the offense, work for you. On top of that, a couple of the things I got from this game, I thought Deion Dawkins had a really good day blocking. He's always been a good offensive lineman. This was a better day for him in the run game. Alec Anderson buried a couple guys. He's a guy that obviously doesn't play all the time. It's funny, they bring him in as a sixth offensive lineman a lot, and they tend to run away from him. But there are plays when he just undresses guys. He had a couple of those in this game as well. All right, let's go to the defensive side of the ball. Like we said, coordinators are the theme. I don't know if Bobby Babich had a better or worse day than Joe Brady, but he made a ton of impact in this game in a lot of ways.
I do. Something that just came to mind that we didn't talk about pre-show about Bobby Babich. Last week against the Lions, the Rams run a lot of condensed sets. And what I mean by that is the eligible receivers.
You mean the Bills, Rams against the Bills, right?
The Rams against the Bills, excuse me.
Okay, yeah.
A lot of condensed sets where the receivers are really tight to the line, to the tackles or tight ends or whatever. And they were getting killed with it, whether it was in the running game, boots, whatever the case may be. One way that you can combat that is splitting your corners. And the Lions never saw it coming on the well-timed Christian Benford and Kyer Elam blitz. That was something where I thought it really was beneficial that they played the Rams and Lions in back-to-back weeks. Because if you played the Rams maybe 6 weeks ago, you might not have that be as fresh in your mind when you play against another team who lives in that world. So I do want to give Bobby Babich his flowers before I go any further on that specific play right there.
Beyond that, I think there were multiple situations where that was one where he made the right call at the right time. The Matt Milano blitz on the 3rd and 10 at the very end of the half, when the Bills were up 7 after the missed field goal, it looked like the Lions were going to walk right in the end zone. Taron Johnson gets beat by Amon-Ra St. Brown. If that ball's on the money, Amon-Ra probably scores a touchdown there. But because the Bills got pressure, because they set pressure, it forced the Lions into a long field goal. They missed, and the Bills were able to pretty much salt the rest of the game away. There were run blitzes, too, where he just called the right play at the right time. He had such a good feel for this game, which was way different than last week, because last week it felt like the Rams were 3 steps ahead of him the whole game. This one was completely the other 180. Speaking of that, run defense. I give Babich credit, too. I thought the scheme was good. And the thing that you saw most of all was a lot of bodies defending the run for the Bills.
8, 9 men in the box. I'm not even kidding when I say 9. I think there was a 13 personnel play where I saw Cam Lewis deep, Christian Benford out on an island, and they're putting everyone else in the box and they're saying, we dare you to go anywhere else with the football. And I think that was their game plan going in, where we're going to say, hey, Jared Goff, we know you're good, but we think those running backs are going to play a bigger role in this game. And Jared Goff ended up balling, so I'm not going to discredit that. But you can tell what their plan A and B and C was, and they took it away through the first 3. Well, they took away the running game the entire game. Ended up biting them, obviously, in the fourth quarter. But the first 2.5, that was the game plan, and it worked. They got away from it, though, and I think they probably felt they needed to do so or could do so once they went up by 17. And once they started getting back to their traditional 2 high safeties and not as aggressive, that's when the Lions started to cook. And I do wonder, I know it's not in their nature to always be this ultra aggressive single high world. We're sending pressure, doing all this exotic stuff because they tend to live in the more traditional 2 high stuff. But it would be really cool if they could have just did that the entire game, because the Lions were really at their mercy playing that style.
And having the numbers in the box showed a commitment to the run, to stopping the run. it was the right call. You know, if you're going to go into this game with, especially the personnel you had at the back end, where you're missing 3 starters, the idea of let's at least try and make Detroit one dimensional, even if we have to commit exorbitant numbers to do it, I thought was the right call. And then beyond that, too, look, without me knowing the Detroit scheme or being in the Detroit, offensive coordinating room, or even, knowing being a fly on the wall for Bobby Babich, there were multiple run plays where it looked like the Bills were able to change the Lions blocking rules, and they had numbers, but just wouldn't block the guy they needed to block. Matt Milano, Taron Johnson on multiple plays were left unblocked. When I'm counting, I'm like, this guy could have gone to get him. Why are you going over here? Why are you moving the other way? And to me, the only thing I come down to is that's Bobby Babich arranging his defensive personnel in a way that either confuses or tricks or, just forces Detroit into something they don't want to do, that allowed the Bills to have, players available and free to make a tackle. There wasn't a whole lot of guys overrunning blockers. It was just the Bills had numbers all day long.
And now people at home, wait, they gave up 42 points. They didn't play that great. I agree. They probably played average considering how they finished the game, which I think was upsetting is too strong. I just don't like to see that. Like guys just running scot-free and the way that the Lions walked the ball up and down the field. And I get it. Some people are going to say they did enough. I'm not in the room, but I do know how grading works. And you don't get graded based off the fact you played well for 3 quarters. You get graded based off of how you play the entire game. And the Bills schematically did do different stuff. Jared Goff also threw some lasers. The Amon-Ra St. Brown long touchdown where
ridiculous
it literally
throw. Absolutely ridiculous throw.
TV. Yeah, that's a ridiculous throw. He made some other throws like that. So I don't want to sit up here and say the Bills played great. I would give it about a C defensively. But in the game where Josh Allen was doing what he did, a C was going to get the job done.
Well, and against the run, it might have been AA minus, and then against the pass, it's different. But let's dive into that end of the game, because I think that's been the most controversial part of controversial in the game they won, of the way the defense played. Because I thought overall this was maybe the best win. I thought it was the best win Sean McDermott's ever had. And the thing people came back to me with was, well, they gave up 42, and then I'd say, well, look, it was up 17, it was prevent defense. I think a lot of that is excusable. When we go back and watch it, and you looking at it from a cornerback's perspective, knowing what film day and Monday is going to be like even after a win, how concerning, how negative, how bad was it the way Detroit scored 4 touchdowns on their last 4 possessions?
They didn't play prevent defense until the very last drive of the game. That the rest of the other 3 touchdowns they gave up in the second half, they were still playing ball. They were still doing the stuff that I've seen this Bills team do for the first 3 months of the season. Different secondary, so I get it. You're not being as aggressive, therefore there's more on their plate. Obviously, the Amon-Ra St. Brown touchdown, that's a poor angle by Cam Lewis. You expect your deep safety to cap off the defense and make sure that you bring him down to the ground right there. I thought Cole Bishop was a little once again, once he's not in the box and you force him to play too high stuff, it was a world that he's not as accustomed to being in. I know coming out of Utah, I liked him closer to the line of scrimmage. So in that game, you saw some room for improvement in that particular area. I thought Kaiir Elam did play good. The fourth quarter, it was a lot more soft coverage stuff, so it wasn't really playing to his strengths. And quite frankly, they didn't target him much anyways. It was more down the spine of the defense like the Lions always tend to do. So, are the alarm bells going off? No, because my biggest thing that we've talked about from August until today on December 17th is the pass rush. And I think the pass rush did enough to alleviate concerns about that fourth quarter going forward.
I did think that the Lions did a good job, like you said, opening up the intermediate parts of the defense. I thought Terrell Bernard more so than Matt Milano, but both linebackers had a rough day in pass coverage. Taron Johnson even had a couple of, uncharacteristic breakdowns. And this wasn't just at the end. This was all game long. But let's talk about this pass rush. And obviously it starts with Ed Oliver. We've talked a lot in this space about Ed Oliver, Daquan Jones, not playing terrible, but certainly not playing up to a level that we would expect, demand, and have seen before. This game was them being back, both of them too. And Oliver had the numbers, but Daquan Jones was very good in this game too. Obviously, the play that I think sums it up, people probably seen on social media, Frank Ragnow is one of the best centers, maybe the best center in the NFL. And there was a pass rush where Ed Oliver just trucked him like a inflatable doll. He just ran him over. And it wasn't just that. I know Next Gen Stats had him at 10 pressures. I'm not quite through the whole game yet, but I've got him on pace for that many pressures. He was so good at a level that we haven't seen him at all year. And there's no explanation I have for why, other than, I don't know, he tried harder. I mean, this was not the guy we've seen for the other 13 weeks of the year. And this is after, look, we all in the media asked questions this week about two other guys. Ed, what's wrong? What's going on? Ed talked to the media too, was a stand-up guy on Wednesday last week, answered all the questions. And they would say, well, you don't see the devil teams. You don't see the things he's doing. Me and you are watching. We've seen the things he's doing. And it ain't the same as what he's done last year. And it certainly wasn't the same as what he did in this game, because in this game, he was amazing.
Especially when you're going up against a quarterback like Jared Goff, who isn't the most mobile dude. Now, I know he had some scrambles where I was like, hold on, that's not the 16 that I know when he's taking off. But a quarterback like him, who's more of a statue and he wants to step up as opposed to step out and escape, Ed O is right in your face. And that was a huge deterrent to how there was a couple throws where Jared Goff just missed because Ed is in his face. The Sam Laporta over, where it's wide open and Jared Goff hits that 9 times out of 10. But the one time he doesn't hit it is Ed Oliver has his hand up right in his face. There was another whole shot that I don't know would have been completed anyways. But once again, Ed Oliver is pushing up the pocket. When you can get Ed Oliver to crush it from inside, and then you get an occasional Von Miller to bend, and once again Greg Rousseau to crush it as well, that's when you have a pass rush that can help you go long into January and then possibly February.
Exactly what I thought. Watching this game, you walk away and think, if the Bills get this Ed Oliver the rest of the year, I don't know how you stop them, because the offense, no one's holding them under 30 no matter who they play. And there are probably better defenses, Steelers, Ravens, Chiefs, maybe they might see in the playoffs. Regardless, they're scoring on everybody. Well, now, if you got this pass rush, I don't really care what's going on behind me. Matt Milano, take your time getting ready. Rasul Douglas, no worry to come back. We're going to have a guy in the backfield all day. And this was not a bad offensive line. We've talked about the Bills taking advantage of rookies and backups, Greg Rousseau in particular. This was not that. The Lions are a top 3 offensive line. And the Bills maybe didn't dominate it, but certainly did plenty to be effective and to affect the quarterback from the first quarter all the way to the end of the fourth quarter. And if they get that guy and this defensive line the rest of the year, you're right. I don't know how anybody is going to stop them. I want to talk about Matt Milano real quick. I thought we are still in a spot with him where the return to play is slow. The improvement curve is gradual. I think people should understand that it's going to be a while. I saw him miss a couple tackles. Like Terrell Bernard, he had some trouble in the pass game. It's getting better. A couple good blitzes. I think the blitz ability is still there, but it's going to be a while with Milano. Anything else from you defensively in this game? Guys who stood out, guys who didn't stand out, things you want to talk about against the Lions here?
Kaiir Elam, obviously, I thought that he had a couple press reps where I was like, man, that probably gets flagged in a lot of other games. But since the Detroit Lions are doing the same thing on the other side of the ball, the refs were like, I'll let you go out there and cook, especially the pass breakup that he had later on in the football game. That was a good step to see, because we don't know how long Rasul Douglas is going to be out. And he also had a couple reps in zone where he sought out a dig where I'm like, that's some next level stuff where you're the backside cover 3 corner and you catch the dig in the middle of the field. That's a guy who's clearly learning and gets a better feel of what Sean McDermott asks his corners to do in that zone heavy scheme.
Another rep that I liked was the very first one of the game, the play action pass, where the Lions ran 2 receivers down the left side, wanted to get Amon-Ra a dig over the middle. And Kaiir was on the far side, didn't have any receivers, and crushed it down to the middle of the field. I think helped take that throw away. It looked like it was still there, but Elam is doing his job at a high level. I like that a lot. The other thing I want to talk about, the run defense, although Ed Oliver was very good and Daquan Jones was very good, the run defense as a whole, to me, there was a lot of circumstances in this game. We talked about Bobby Babich having good calls at the right time. There were also a couple of plays. I mean, the Lions had one where an offensive tackle is trying to pull or a guard, and he trips over his own man. It leads to a 0. Obviously, David Montgomery got hurt in this game. That's a factor at some point. And then the Bills, you want to help defend the run? Well, put up 35 points in 3 quarters. That'll be a part of it too. So the point I'm making, though, is that as great as the run defense was, or as much better as it was, there were a lot of things that happened in this game to where I don't think you get this kind of effort without all of those circumstances being in play again going forward. You need the offense to have a few mistakes. You need your offense to score 30 every time, which might happen. You need your coordinator to be pressing all the right buttons, because it wasn't, like I said, just Ed Oliver or Daquan Jones or tackles winning. They won more, but not nearly enough to where you're like, wow, they're going to hold everybody to under 50 yards.
Yeah, like what does Sean McDermott say? Complimentary football, right? our run defense might not be that strong, so we're gonna need the offense to stay out in front, so we don't have to rely on our front 6 or 7, if you want to include Taron Johnson in that equation right there, to stop Derrick Henry late in the postseason, late in the third quarter. We would much prefer if we can pin our ears back and go attack the passer.
Look, no one's got a perfect team. Everybody's got weaknesses you got to kind of work around. If the Bills' run defense is it, first of all, if I'm going to order pass offense, pass defense, run defense is the thing I want to have trouble with of the 4. And the Bills have proven, especially with that offense, that they have workarounds for what they're doing. But hey, when the run defense plays at that level, you don't need to work around it as much. All right, speaking of workarounds, next week is Christmas. So we're going to work around Christmas by not doing Let's Talk Ball. My apologies. Look, it's the Patriots, y'all. You can live without us for a week. It ain't going to be that big a deal. We'll be back in 2 weeks around New Year's Eve. We'll talk about Jets and Patriots at home. I don't think either of those games will be too discussion lengthy anyway, but we will be back in 2 weeks. Remember, you can always watch Let's Talk Ball at rochesterfirst.com. You click on the sports tab. You find us at 8 Sports Extra. We're also at WIVB.com. We are on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts. For Carl Jones, I'm Thad Brown. Everybody have a happy holiday. We'll see you in 2 weeks on Let's Talk Ball.